This is a homage beat.
Well, how we justify death. What are the two main reasons where we say death is what justifiable? What are those two reasons?
The two reasons we say
Death is justifiable. I say one is what, self-defense.
Yeah, self-defense.
And then I say the other is what, if someone commits a really extreme crime. Because even if we go to scripture, it says what, whoever sheds the blood of a man, by man shall his blood be shed. And I even talked about this, I want to say a couple weeks ago, where it's like, so oftentimes, and I'm not here to pick a view on capital punishment, but so many people are so dogmatic about capital punishment, not realizing that one of the supports for capital punishment actually comes from scripture. Now, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, but for us to discount it, not realizing that what scripture actually gives a reason that humans are so valuable for you to take the life of another. Then you deserve to die as well. And we see those are the two main reasons where what, taking a life or shedding blood is what, justifiable self-defense, and then what, when someone commits a crime, heinous or extremely bad. And so just going from there, just and I don't know how to ask this, because just when you think on that, what are your thoughts on when I say that those are the two justifiable reasons for taking life? And like I said, this is not even biblical. This is even seen outside of a biblical worldview, because there's, I don't know if like Texas or even some states up north where they still practice capital punishment. You do something wrong enough, what, you die.
Right. Well, I think, I think self-defense would obviously be, justifiable if, you're protecting your home or protecting your wife and children or even yourself. That would be understandable. I think the idea, the crime one is somewhat tricky. But when we think about it through a gospel lens, Jesus did die because of judgment, because of eternal judgment. And so from that standpoint, we have to see sin as cosmic treason. So we have to see that as the most heinous act against God the Creator. And that's why it says the wages of sin is death, right? It tells thee that the wages of sin is death, but, right, the gift of God is eternal life. So I would say that, but then I think the other aspect, and I guess I'm sure we'll probably get there, that is literally justifiable in an eternal sense is salvation or redemption. Redemption was God initiates this redemption, and death is necessary because of the wage of our sin, and he dies for us. And so husbands are then encouraged to do the same thing for their wives. Like Christ did for the church, we are now challenged and commanded, I would say, based on Ephesians 5, to do the same for our wives. So I would agree. I think the capital punishment can get tricky because it's going to be nuanced based on case by case, right? So,
and I actually kind of hit on that. And like I said, I didn't want to get too deep on it, but I was making that biblical point that you just made. I said capital punishment should not be used arbitrarily and should be exercised in extreme situations. The reason being that men are imperfect judges, not imperfect in the sense that they judge unjustly, but in the sense that they are sinners. I say biblically, every sin is worthy of death. We quote that Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death, but we say it so flippantly, like, no, every sin that you commit, not just the murderer, not just the rapist, not the child molester, every sin that you commit is worthy of death. But on a human level, we can't do that because we're all liars, we're all thieves. But what God can judge us, I say, only God can judge justly because God is holy. Only a holy God can judge sinners because he is what? Perfectly sinless. This is an aspect of God's character that people dislike. I say people really, people don't have a problem with God. They have a problem with a holy God. And I don't know if I said this in the chapter, but I said, I don't think anyone is truly an atheist because everybody loves, obeys, and serves something. Oftentimes it's themselves. Would you agree with that statement that the idea of atheism is more of a myth, it's more of an illusion, because even those who deny God, they appeal to science. They appeal to something, so they still deify science, they still deify nature. And you were just saying Scripture influenced science, not the other way around. But so many people look to science to influence Scripture.
Right.
But there's truly no true atheist, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say, I think in a social sense, I would say, yeah, there are atheists in the sense that they say they don't ascribe to the idea of a higher being. Mm-hmm. And I think that's I don't think we can dispute that person say they don't ascribe. I think what they miss is that it takes faith to believe in evolution. I think that's what they miss, that because you were not there, right? You weren't there. You won't have pictures. You don't have quote unquote proof, and they play gymnastics as to why, if evolution is real, why we aren't still evolving. Yeah. And there are tons of different versions to try to answer that question. But the idea that either evolution or the Big Bang Theory, both of those viewpoints take faith. Yeah. And so to demonize or to scrutinize people of faith, yet deny the reality of your own presupposition, because your presupposition includes an element of faith to say that we evolved from monkeys, or that there was this cosmic bang, and somehow the bang created as opposed to destroy, when typically bangs destroy. But so that takes faith. Yeah. So from that perspective, I get what you're saying. But I think socially, there are atheists, but I think they are not honest about the reality that it takes faith to embrace an evolutionary viewpoint. Yeah. So you're demonizing and scrutinizing Christians or even other people of faith, but at the same time, you're placing faith in something that you can't prove. Yeah. You can't prove it, but they assume that they can.
And I agree, like just on the social level, we categorize someone who's an atheist between someone who's a theist, but just because I'm always just thinking philosophically that, like you said, that they're still putting their faith, their trust into something. You're deifying whatever you're putting your trust in. Right. So in actuality, for you to look down upon someone for thinking it's so archaic to believe in a God, like you said, it actually takes more faith to believe in what you believe, because we actually have evidence to, in the name of the book, I'm providing you evidence to prove. It's on you. It's not on me to provide evidence. It's actually on you, atheists, to provide proof that there is. And that's a whole nother story. But I was just curious, because I write things, I'm like, oh, that was dope. But I'm curious, for the reader, how do they internalize it? Is it making sense to them? And I was like, so even though people can deny the existence of a God, what one can't deny is right and wrong. Nor can one deny that every society, culture, and civilization is governed by laws. And I even go back to the Israelites, where it's like they were set up under a theocracy. So they were primarily not necessarily accountable to a man-made government. They were accountable directly to God. Yeah. And therefore, God instituted a sacrificial system because what? Sin, he couldn't be in the presence of sin. So therefore, he was teaching that anytime you sin, that a price must be paid. Now, because again, when I started doing these topics, I come from like a basic understanding of, okay, I know a little bit about the sacrificial system. What was your understanding of the sacrificial system?
You're not saying post.
No, I'm talking about
before I started digging. Okay, yeah. So before, I began to read, study, and dig in more, my understanding of sacrifice was that you were only sacrificing to get something back. So it was a symbiotic relationship, and which is essentially you do for, I do for you, you do for me. And so it wasn't, for me, my menial understanding at that time, now I understand that view really isn't sacrifice if you're always expecting something back, but that is how I looked at it. I looked at it as you're giving this up only to get something in return. Gotcha. So therefore, sacrifice was basically used as a means to an end, not that you genuinely cared. And that was just because of largely upon my experiences, and then again just my misunderstanding of Scripture at that time.
Gotcha. And I think you're talking about just the concept of sacrifice. I mean more like the Old Testament understanding of like, because it's a foreign concept for us to think that people actually went to a temple and sacrificed animals. So I like knew that happened. I knew about the temple. I know like there was one temple that was destroyed and then another one was built, but I didn't really understand like the intricacies of what went on. Did you have any prior knowledge of like, I guess one of the main points that I'm getting at is like, I knew that people had to make sacrifices, but one of the sacrifices they made were for what? Unintentional sins. Like that was kind of like bugged me out. Was like you had to make a sacrifice for unintentional sins because so many people, I hear all the time like people's beef with Christianity is like, so I can go and commit a sin and then just ask God for forgiveness, where they have this Catholic view of what forgiveness. Absolutely. I'll do a sin, I'll go forgive, say a couple Hail Marys, and then I'm good to continue sinning. But even it was never supposed to be like that because they would be making sacrifices for unintentional sins. So it was like flagrant and blatant sins. It even talks about that. Like I think it was in Numbers 29 through 30. If it was a flagrant, defiant, or like deliberate sin, you'd actually be excommunicated. So even the sacrificial system, it wasn't meant for, okay, I know I'm going to sin tomorrow. I just got to do what I need to do so I can make a sacrifice. So that's what I guess that's what I was getting at. Did you have any understanding of the sacrificial system?
Very loosely, and most of what I was taught was just the priest. Yeah. You know, the high priest going in, and then I was taught that history would say that the priest had like a rope around his leg in case he went in and they would pull him out. So I had this, you know, this understanding of, I knew that God took sin seriously. I didn't all the way understand why am I doing a sacrifice for sin if you atoned for it. That was what I wrestled with, you know, before I began to understand substitutionary atonement. But before understanding that, it's like, well, what is the point of this? You know, what is the point of this? But then now understanding that really that is Old Testament repentance. You know what I mean? That's this idea. I'm acknowledging that I have sinned against a holy and just God, and I want to acknowledge my wrong and His holiness. So I'm sacrificing as a result of that. And I also understanding that, you know, that because this is a lot of this is in Leviticus, so this is after Exodus, so that He's showing us that He's going to sacrifice for us.